Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a build guide for the Way of the Ascendant Dragon Monk Subclass mod made by Sumradagnoth. This is a really fun subclass because you can turn your punches into an elemental damage type. So you can change all of the damage into acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison. You also can get advantage on persuasion checks. You got some breath attacks, some different exploding attacks, and a lot more, which we'll be breaking down in this video. So with the monk, it's really best to use obviously Tavern Brawler and a strength potion. It's going to be the most optimal. However, if you don't want to go this route, you can take some points out of the other stats here. Now, we can't really use the gloves of dexterity because the best monk items are actually gloves. So this is a tough one. The Constitution Amulet is the only really other piece of gear that we can use if you wanted to go into strength. But I think it's best to dump strength and go with this stat spread here. Also, you don't have to use Tavern Brawler and a strength potion. It's min-maxing it. We'll be rolling with this stat spread of 16 dex, 14 constitution, 10 intelligence, 16 wisdom, and 10 charisma. And if you're downloading mods, you can also just download the cheater spell mod and get yourself a bunch of strength potions if you don't want to grind them out, because there is some pretty easy ways to get them in the game. But level 2 gives us our patient defense, step of the wind dash, and disengage. And there's actually a special step of the wind that we'll be getting a little bit later on as part of the subclass, which is pretty cool, as draconic as it is. Now, there's other subclasses here. If you want to see any of these, let me know, but we'll be first starting off with the Way of the Ascendant Dragon here. So, a lot of subclass features. So, you get Breath of the Dragon. Monks follow the Way of the Ascendant Dragon, can channel destructive waves of energy. Draconic Presence, you can use a reaction to gain advantage on your next Intimidation or Persuasion check. Once this feature has been used, it can only be used once per long rest. Draconic Strike, turn your unarmed strikes into cold, fire, acid, lightning, or poison damage. And you also get the Breath of the Dragon here, which you can do in either a 6-meter cone or 9-meter line. That does those elemental damage types equal to 2 rolls of your martial arts die. Here's all the elemental damage types. And you have Recharge Breath of the Dragon. Spend key points to regain a use of your dragon breath. If you have no uses available for 2 key points. So we'll be rolling with this here. Into level 4, we get our slow fall and a new feat. As mentioned, the best way to min-max the damage is taking the Tavern Brawler feat. And I guess at this point you could have had Constitution at 15 to take it up to 16. In this build, I'm going to use the Constitution Amulet, so show the maximum strength here. At level 5, we get an extra attack, and we also get our Stunning Strikes, which are very good. Stunning a target means they don't get their next turn, which is extremely effective. So use your key points on that as well. Level 6 gives us the Key Empowered Strikes and subclass feature, Wings Unfurled. When you use Step of the Wind Dash or Disengage, you gain the ability to fly. You get your draconic wings to go around the battlefield. Also, while I'm on the topic of flying, this is the Armor of the Worthy mod by Skirby. I just felt it was pretty draconic, so that's what we went with this armor here. Evasion, very useful feat or ability here, giving you half damage on successful dexterity saving throw, and or no damage if you succeed and half damage if you fail, so just taking way less damage from spells. And if you're charmed or frightened, you automatically cost Stillness of Mind and remove the condition. Level 8, an extra feat. At this point, Alert is really good. Plus 5 to initiative and Can't Be Surprised is super useful, especially on a monk that can go around deleting people. But Dexterity is another good increase because this will give us more armor class and initiative as well. So we do get multiple feats here. We'll be taking this to level 20 as well as part of this. But level 9 gives us the unarmored movement, so difficult terrain doesn't slow us down. The reason we'll be going to level 20 is because this mod has level 20 support, so I just want to show off the full abilities. But if you're at level 12, that is okay too. Immunity to poison damage, can't be poisoned, and unaffected by disease, purifying the ki flowing through your meditations. Always nice to get that. Level 11 gives us some more subclass features. So Draconic Strike and Breath of the Dragon do acid, and then you get the Aspect of the Worm, grant acid resistance to your allies with your resistance aura. So you can pick one of these here and do a 3-meter aura, similar to the Paladin's aura of protection. This also can potentially frighten creatures, so we do have a couple of abilities for frightening enemies, which is really fun to use. Level 12 gives us another feat, and at this point, Initiative is really useful. I mean, it's always useful, so Alert is a good feat, or another Dexterity increase, a bit boosts our armor class. Level 13 gives you the Tongue of Sun and Moon. You learn to touch the key of the other's mind, so you can understand all spoken languages. Yippee! Doesn't really do a whole lot. Similar, you can learn Draconic languages in D&D, but that can't really be implemented here. Unarmored movement speed boost at level 14 here. It's always nice to get that increase. Level 15 will just give you more key points as well. Again, always useful. Level 16 gives us a feat, and since we already took Tavern Brawler, and unfortunately some of the other feats here like Savage Attacker don't actually work because it's melee weapon attack rolls. Lucky is a not bad feat to go with. I also like going with like even the ability score improvements are a good choice always, getting your dexterity and wisdom up even higher. And the tough feat, which will give us an extra 40 health as a feat that gives you 2 points per level. It's always really strong. Level 17 gives us the Ascendant aspect. You can spend key points to augment your breath dragon attacks, augmenting their shape and power, and your aspect of the worm aura can damage nearby enemies when you activate them. That's pretty fun, and I'll show you what that looks like in combat in a moment. 9 meters extra movement speed at level 18, and we'll get ourselves another feat at this level. As mentioned, the tough feat will give us an extra 40 health, which is a lot. But you can always go with an increase to the wisdom, and there's some items that'll be affected by our wisdom stat, so that's always good too. And then level 20 gives us the perfect self. When you roll for initiative and no key points, you regain 4 key points, which you should always just long rest if that's the case. As far as gear, I really like to use the Snowburst Ring with cold damage, because this will make ice surfaces below the enemies. And if we're using that, we do have to have the Disintegrating Nightwalker so we don't slip on ice ourselves. The boots of Uninhibited Kashigo otherwise are great because it'll deal additional damage equal to your wisdom modifier with unarmed strikes, but we're going to go this route and create ice surfaces because that's just a good way to make this not only a high damage class, but a crowd control class as well. Ring of Protection is another good choice too, and the Killer Sweetheart, also not a bad choice. Crusher's Ring early game for the plus 3 meters movement speed is another fun one, so you can go with all of those there. And I have the Amulet of Greater Health as mentioned, just to help increase our overall health. But there's also the Sentient Amulet here, which gives you key restoration, so that's probably the true best in slot. As for helmets, Scabby Pugilist Circlet here, which will give you additional 2 damage when surrounded by 2 or more foes. The Mask of Soul Perception doesn't really matter here because we're not going to miss shots with our Tavern Brawler, adding our Strength modifier twice to our attack rolls. Horns the Berserker, plus 2 to attack rolls when attacking creatures already taken damage, and deal additional necrotic damage on your unarmed strikes. So this is possibly the best choice for a helmet. Early game, the Haste Helmet will give you additional movement speed, so that can be really nice too. But yeah, pick one of those there that you find works well. Cloak of Protection for increased armor class, and Vest of Soul Rejuvenation. So this gives you a greater Kashigo counter. You can do an unarmed strike on an attacker that misses you. Plus 2 to armor class puts us up to 23. We could go to 24 with our boots, and then 25 we take gloves, but we want to have the Gloves of Soul Catching. This adds additional force damage on our attacks, and we can give ourselves heal or advantage on attack rolls, although we don't need the advantage, we're always going to hit. And the Disintegrating Nightwalkers as mentioned. So we'll roll with something like that. Our Flurry of Blows can do quite a bit of damage there, and then once we activate our Draconic Disciple here, we can actually change the elemental damage type over, and we get our breath attacks, we get our aspects, and then we get our frightening auras as well. So a lot of different options here, and these will last for 10 turns, so that's something to keep in mind. So I'll show you what this looks like when we get into actual combat. You can see our icy cold fists there. Now what we want to do is, as any monk does, go in and punch things. You could also, I guess, multi-class this with the Rogue Thief for the extra bonus action. That would have been probably the most powerful way to do this, but I just want to show the pure class here to give you an idea of what can be done. So unarmed strikes, going to be, again, our best option here. We'll roll a crit on that one. You can see the cold damage got applied there, the force damage, and we took them out. Perfect. That's a pretty good first punch. And then we'll go punch another. Then again, you can see there the cold damage. The way it works in the combat log is it's actually going to roll for 0. It takes that roll and then it changes it into cold damage. It's actually a pretty cool way that they got this to work properly, as obviously that's not an easy thing to implement into a game. And boom, there, 15 cold damage. Booyah. Flurry of Blows is going to be our best damage choice again, because the monk really benefits from that. So we're going to use this on a spellcaster here. Hopefully don't get mind broken. We did. And that was almost enough to take them out. This monk can deflect missiles too, which is nice. So we can use this and redirect, catch a projectile for a ranged attack, and shoot it back at your attacker. So use a key point, throw it back at them. What's funny about that is it actually, whenever it's an unarmed attack like that, it turns the damage into cold damage. Pretty funny because it counts as a throwing attack is counted as an unarmed strike in Baldur's Gate 3. So yeah, that's why we got the extra force damage for our gloves on it as well. Now we also got our Aspect of the Worm Frightful Presence. We can use the bonus action to frighten targets. And then we also got our Explosive Fury here, which we can use to create a big frightful presence there. So that's pretty funny. Yeah. I'm noticing that the Snowburst Ring does not actually properly work. I had it working differently last time I tried this out, but we also have our Breath of the Dragon here we can do with our either cone or straight line pack there. So again, whatever's going to give you the most enemies hit in a line, that'll be the way to do it. And you see it actually applied the cold surface there that time around, so it does work sometimes. And the good old-fashioned Greater Kashigo counter here gives you that unarmed strike, which also turns it into cold damage, which I think is awesome. And we got commanded, unfortunately. With the aspect of the worm resistance, it's actually probably best to apply this before you get into a fight if you know you're going to, because the last 10 turns. And our Flurry of Blows bonus action is just so juicy. Again, Rogue Thief is probably the best choice here. We now actually got our Horns of the Berserker working properly to add that extra necrotic damage. So yeah, this becomes a lot more deadly. So we'll just go around with our punches here, because yeah, they hit really hard, adding force damage and additional damage. I'm not sure what the extra damage is coming from, but with all monks, they're best utilized by just punching endlessly. So yeah, that's what you want to do. But adding the Rogue Thief for some extra Flurry of Blows, this is a fun one just because of all the cool ways that you can implement the different damage types you got there. We also got the Activate Frightful Presence too, which we can use to scare somebody. Scare Shadowheart there. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Shadowheart's now frightened, disadvantage on ability checks, attack rolls, and they cannot move. So yeah, that's pretty fun. We also have our Frighten Up for a presence that we can activate 10 turns, which is also really strong. So frightening the enemies, keep them in spot, dealing extra elemental damage types. This is a really fun subclass. Let me know which of the monk subclasses you want to see next from Sumradagnoth's 5e monk subclass combined, and hit the subscribe button below if you haven't already. Have yourself a great day.